the headlines start to twist. He's digging through the stories, finding all the things you missed. Talking Super Bowl ads, old films in modern trouble. If the world's too loud, he cuts it down to the subtle. So turn that down, 'cause you know who's talking. Ooh, if there's truth in the static, Tom Gulley, from where you're looking. Ooh, you gotta dial G for Gulley. 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 Sunrise greets him with a golden crown. Tom Gulley's ready, no time to slow down. His voice a river, smooth and deep. He's got the stories that make the city weep. Walking streets where legends grow. Everywhere he stops, they already know. Tom Gulley goes to town. Oh, he lights it up, never lets it down. Tom Gulley goes to town. He's the man they cheer, the talk of the town. Oh yeah, yeah. Woo, yeah. Woo, yeah. Barbershop chatter, a wave and a grin. Coffee shop wisdom, let the tales begin. The baker hands him a loaf with a smile. Tom, you're the man who makes life worthwhile. A mic in his hand, the airwaves ignite. He spins a story, he turns on the light. Listeners gather from far and wide. Tom Gulley's words, a city's pride. He lights it up, never lets it down. Tom Gulley goes to town. He's the man they cheer, the talk of the town. Tom Gulley goes to town. He lights it up, never lets it down. Tom Gulley goes to town. He's the man they cheer, the talk of the town.
Oh, Annie. Tom Gulley's got a mic in his hand. Ooh, yeah. Talking Bigfoot tracks in the sand. Hole punches, spiders, conspiracies tight. He's podcasting strong, deep into the night. From the man from UNCLE to the Motown scene. He's dropping gems like you never seen. Oh, you know Tom Gulley, he's the podcast king. Say what? Ladies man with a smooth, sweet swing. Bigfoot, spider, and 9/11 schemes. Tom's a man of your wildest dreams. Tom Gulley, he's got charm, got wit, and a silky flow. Oh yeah, talking mysteries only Tom would know. From R&B to the funk so tight, so
Hey, everybody, what's going on? What's hot? What's hip? What's happening? Or maybe I should say, hello, everyone. What's going on? What's hot? What's hip? What is happening? Thanks, StreamYard. I appreciate that. Thank you. Anyway, love those songs. They're by the man, Leon Kennedy. And if you like them, be here Thursday. I'm going to post a link where you can go get them all. People have been asking for them, so you shall. You shall have them. I'm talking in, of course, what we call the Mid-Atlantic accent. We're going to tell you all about it. Let me tell you about the Mid-Atlantic accent. First, if you could do me a favor, like, share, subscribe, retweet, notification bell, all the free things only cost you a click that help us with the algorithm, the almighty, all-powerful, all-knowing algorithm. Plus, we do have super chats, we do have memberships, we do have the PayPal. We put it all down here in the begging bar at the bottom of the screen. Or you can just look in the description of the show. It's there as well. And what else was there? Oh, you can go to our merch store. It's at the TomGulleyShow.com. We got everything for you, man. We are going to tell you about the Mid-Atlantic accent, which you might not have heard the term Mid-Atlantic accent. That's okay. It's known by 97 other names. And even though you might not have heard the term, you definitely have heard what it is. And you may have even from time to time wondered, why are they talking that way? We'll get into all of that. It's a thing. It's a thing. We do have some comments that we should get to before we get to the show here. Our good friend Gilman is here. He says, not familiar with the Mid-Atlantic accent. Sounds bougie. Oh, it's the bougiest of bougie. It's ultra bougie. And he says, I'm stuck with a southern drawl. 99% sure it's not that. Says he can't wait. And you'd be 100% correct, Amundo. It is not a southern drawl. Michael Gardner says that I just woke him up, and thank you, and you're welcome. And Leon Kennedy says, you got to dial G for Gully. You got to dial G. That's the first song we played tonight. It's really good. It's a shorter one, but it's awesome. It's so awesome. And he said he was listening to it a little earlier while he was playing with his cat. It is music to play with your cat by. It very much is. Chef is in the kitchen. He's out there at the Skyline Restaurant in Indianapolis. Now, if you go to Indianapolis and you think, well, I'd like to go to the Skyline Restaurant, perched high atop that big building there, and you can't unless you're a member. Unless you know a member and they bring you as a guest. That's how I always got to go. So I've been there a lot of times. I worked for an ad agency, and the guy that owned the ad agency was a member at the Skyline Clubs. We went there all the time. And it was the best. Michael Gardner said, is that the Leon Kennedy? It is the Leon Kennedy himself indeed. Honestly, you're a legend, and I love you. You are a legend. You're right up there with SG Fanboy. You're a living legend here on the Tom Gulley Show. You really are. So, anyway, I've always been fascinated by the Mid-Atlantic accent. Now, the Mid-Atlantic accent is when you watch movies from the olden days, from like the 30s all the way into the 50s, and even some early TV shows, and you see a typical American family in the middle of nowhere, just an everyday American family, like Father Knows Best. The mother on Father Knows Best spoke in the Mid-Atlantic accent. And you see them talking, and they'll say things like, I'd rather that you didn't go to the school today. And you're like, why are you speaking that way? Why are you speaking in a slightly British manner? Or an upper crust manner. You know, it was thought of the upper crust of the United States. Well, there's very good reasons for that. And I'm going to show you both some people that are known to speak that way, several of which I didn't even realize till I did the research for this show, weren't British. I thought they were British. No, they're Americans. And it is a consciously learned affect. It is not an American dialect at all. It's something that you don't necessarily have to be trained to learn, but you could be around people that had adopted this accent because it was thought to be the proper way to speak. Yes, Leon Kennedy is dialing G for Gulley. That makes me very happy. Yes. Now, it's associated mostly with announcers and actors in Hollywood, but that's only because that's where it's recorded and that's where a lot of people saw it. And another reason that I'll tell you about in just a second, it's also sort of associated with and kind of overlaps with something called the Northeastern elite accent from that time period. And there's a reason for that as well. Okay? So I'll get into the various names that this is known as in just a second. This was something that was taught, okay, in classrooms. It was designed, it was codified, and it was advocated by certain phonicians, people that are good at phonics and speaking, and teachers in the United States, and people in linguistics who felt that this was the best and most proper way to speak English. Now, there's a guy that's sort of an expert on this. He's an expert on language in general. He's a voice and drama professor. His name is Dudley Knight. And he says something here that I think encapsulates the Mid-Atlantic accent perfectly. And that is, its earliest advocates bragged that the chief quality of the Mid-Atlantic accent was that no Americans actually spoke it unless they were educated to do so. Which is, if to say, unless you were educated to do this, unless you were of a certain class of people who were educated to speak in this manner, then you didn't speak this way. It was a sign of prestige or elitism. Yes. So the American entertainment industry was the way that people saw and experienced this. They might experience it in their everyday lives, but we don't have any record of that. So that's also how the rest of the country saw this accent and how they perceived the people who spoke it. Now, as I mentioned, there are a million different names for this. It's known as what we're calling it right now, the Mid-Atlantic accent. It's also known as the Transatlantic accent due to its roots in British pronunciation. And those terms sort of refer to its mixture of American and British features. A lot of vowel stuff going on here that we'll get to in a second. But it's also known as American Theater Standard. They used it in the theater. The theater. It's also known as American Stage Speech. It's also known as World English or Standard English. And it's also known as Good Speech. That's what it was known as. And then also Good American Speech. Very lofty, all right? It's known as Eastern American Standard or simply Standard English. There's a lot of names for this, all right? A lot of names. In the 19th century, and all throughout sort of midway through the 20th century, formal public speaking in the United States, when people were taught to do it or practiced doing it, was like a song-like intonation. And so they wanted their words to be very, they wanted a song-like quality. And because of that, they did things to vowels. Like, I would rather, they messed with vowels, and specifically vowels and the letters after them. Okay? So American actors in classical plays all spoke with English accents. They didn't use the Mid-Atlantic accent. They just went full on English. due to the high prestige at the time of what they called English Received Pronunciation, or RP. And that standard of speech in Britain was regarded as carrying the highest social prestige. All right. It's also referred to as Queen's English or King's English. All right. That's the way the upper crust would speak. It's not, it's even higher than what we call BBC English. BBC English is what they use on the BBC to do the news. And the BBC English is much more subtle. It's much more subdued than the King's English. It's, 4 men were shot yesterday in the middle of Cambridge Square. Police have been, and it's very sort of matter of fact and subdued and even. The King's English is a bit more lavish than that. They drop their R's, they delete the, rather, there's no R at the end of that word. They drop that. Anyway, so anyway, ordinary Eastern New England accents, as well as the elites spoken by New York elite, Boston Brahmins, the New England coastal upper class, they shared some of these aspects. And after a time, they were taught them. And where were they taught them? They were taught them in high-end schools. This is the way you should speak. There are certain teachers of this particular way of speaking that you can trace to, this is the reason people did this. There was an Australian Phoenician who came to the United States, and he was a big champion of this, teaching at Columbia University and their extension program in New York City from 1918 to the time of his death in 1935. And he fought very hard to standardize this as the proper American public pronunciation for teaching in public schools and in public life. He was very snobby about it, as a matter of fact. He was perhaps the most influential speech instructor in the United States in the first half of the 20th century. He called it World English, and he attracted a following of English language learners, people that were learning the English language, and more importantly, New York City public school teachers. And at that point, his version of this language began to permeate itself through teachers at public schools, predominantly on the East Coast, but it trickled through the rest of the United States. Now, a lot of Americans think that this is British. They think it's not. It's a combination of British and English, and it's very snobby, very, very snobby. Let me see here. Leon Kennedy says there's a British version of the Mid-Atlantic accent. It's called received pronunciation. Yes, I just mentioned that, or just RP. BBC News anchors used to be trained to do it. It sounds really pretentious. Yes, the BBC English, which is a thing, uses received pronunciation, but it, in delivery, is very flat. It's very matter of fact. And it differs from really true, pure received pronunciation in that it does not have that sing-songy, quite as lavish delivery. BBC announcers were taught that one story should not be as excitable as another story. 3 bombs went off yesterday in Belfast, as that should get the same amount of inflection and everything else as the cistern in Leeds Town Square was fouled yesterday by some ruffians. It's just a little bit even. Wade Curtis says, great topic. Thank you, Wade. Goats says, stabbed, not shot. I don't know what that means. Anyway, so while promoting this world English, William Tilley and his acolytes began to create courses for it, and that made it spread. Now, Tilley did not work with actors himself, but several prominent students of his ended up doing so, and that established a type of pronunciation for not just classical actors in the U.S., but stage actors of all kinds, film actors, especially when movies went to sound, but also in the very powerful at the time medium of radio, okay? And some of the people who popularized it were Windsor Daggett, who was a teacher and taught many, many, many actors, Margaret Prendergast McLean, and Edith Warman Skinner. Even their names sound, I should be putting Windsor Daggett, Margaret Prendergast McLean. You know, yeah. Now, Windsor Daggett is important because he campaigned for the accent in the American entertainment world itself in his weekly Billboard column from in the 20s, basically. During that decade, he also dominated the New York market for theatrical speech improvement. And he viewed the accent that he called standard English, neither regionally American nor an affected ultra-British class dialect, but a cultured, intelligible, transnational accent of English that avoided all features that could identify its speaker's upbringing. Now, I think that's a lofty goal, but this accent did not do that. In fact, it did quite the opposite. If you heard this accent, you went, that is an upper crust person who has been schooled, who has gone to a very high-end school or been brought up with moolah, money, scratch, greenbacks, dead presidents. Anyway, Margaret Prendergast McLean became one of the most influential speech teachers for East Coast actors by the late 20s and was distinguished for her work at the American Laboratory Theater in New York. She published a text called Good American Speech, which is what a lot of people called it. Just they didn't even, this is good American speech. Everything else spoken by mutts, So from the 20s to the 50s, the Mid-Atlantic accent was a popular affectation on stage in many New York schools and in high culture in North America. All right? So American cinema actually began in New York City and Philadelphia in the 1900s. It took a while for that to be transplanted to Los Angeles in the teens. Okay, and the talkies didn't start until the late 20s. So Hollywood studios encourage actors, I'm going to give you a really good example of this in just a second, to learn this accent into the 1940s. In fact, if you were signed to a contract at a major Hollywood studio, you would definitely be taking classes on good American speech. Yes. Now, once the studio system ended, studio system was basically what ran Hollywood until the 50s. And that was, we're signing you to a contract, you work for us. At a certain point, that system fell away and actors were sort of on their own and they were just hired to do movies for various studios. And when that happened, the studios had way less control of the actors. And at that point, the Mid-Atlantic accent fell out of favor. And now most actors and actresses speak what's known as general American English, which is the way that I speak, with no accent whatsoever. Incidentally, people from the Midwest, like myself, were born and raised in the Midwest, are known for having general American English accents. They're very bereft of any. Now, I could use the accents of my family and those around me, and maybe even me when I was younger. Well, he's going over there and they're going to get a ball game going on as soon as that creek lays down. That does exist. So, anyway, what do we got here? Willie Tilly. Yes, Willie Tilly. Let's see here. How would you say we don't burn things in this kitchen? We don't burn things in this kitchen. That's probably how they would say it. Leon Kennedy says it's funny because I study languages, and that's exactly how I describe the transatlantic accent. Sing-songy. It was very sing-songy. Reginald, I'll have you know I won't countenance any more of this behavior. Anyway, Goat says Willie Tilly. I already did that. What a name. Dupa says, hello, Gully Gang. By the way, thanks for the tunes, Leon. Gully American English. Yes, of course. Gully American Yinglish. Yingling? People saying hi. People saying hi. You know, we do have the most cheerful chat room on the internets. We're known for that. We're known for that. Now, let me give you some examples of some actors known for using this accent. Okay, now here's one, and this is an older, she's very young in this picture, but you might remember her. Thanks, StreamYard. You might remember her. Well, I'll just put her up here like this because she's quite a looker. You might remember her from the movies MASH, where she didn't really use the Mid-Atlantic accent that much, but in Back to School with Rodney Dangerfield, this is Sally Kellerman, and you heard her voice on a million commercials. Until I did the research for this show, I thought she was British. I really did. But she is definitely a person who was a purveyor of the Mid-Atlantic accent. Now, here's another one. This is Tammy Grimes, who's also, she was in movies and had her own TV show in the 60s, but she did voice work into the 80s and 90s and stuff and was very popular. But she had a voice that was very, and I thought she was British. No, she was not at all. Fred Astaire was known for having a mid-Atlantic accent. The great Orson Welles, known for having a mid-Atlantic accent, you know. Well, isn't that the beauty of it? Last year we did these, and they were all quite splendid. You know, he had a mid-Atlantic accent. Now, here's a good one. Now, this one, you may have seen this woman in movies and things, but Katharine Hepburn is a very good example of the mid-Atlantic accent. Darling, darling, you know, I'd rather, you know, I dare say, you know, she's just a perfect example. Now, there's a couple political people that were mid-Atlantic accents. The famous Franklin Delano Roosevelt. The only thing we have to fear is fear itself. The hand that held the dagger has struck. He's very much the mid-Atlantic accent. And in his case, and in the case of John F. Kennedy, who had a very heavy Eastern accent, still spoke in the mid-Atlantic accent, but they both are from the Northeast, and that kind of overlaps with the mid-Atlantic accent. Now, for those of you who watch PBS and such, we have Julia Child, who, if you've ever seen an episode of oh, well, thank you so much. Today we're going to make a sherry. And I think that in very much the mid-Atlantic accent. This is a guy that most of you probably won't know, but I'm writing his name down. We really need to do a show on him. And it's a man by the name of George Plimpton. And I actually got to meet him and have, I didn't have dinner with him so much as I was at a dinner that he attended. There was probably 10 or 12 of us there. But we all sat around. He was quite droll. He was quite charming. And George Plimpton is a guy who was predominantly known for being an author. And what distinguished him was if he did a book on professional football, I think one of his most famous books is called Paper Lion. He was a participatory author. So when he wrote Paper Lion, he actually attended the training camp of the Detroit Lions and tried out for the team. Yes. And he did this with all sorts of various pursuits. He was quite brave in that regard, but he spoke in a very sort of British, kind of a mid-Atlantic accent. He was very mid-Atlantic accent, and he was schooled at the very finest schools and all that other stuff. Now, for those of you who maybe don't know who all those old people are, I've got one for you here, and this one you're really going to like. Sergeant at Arms Douglas C. Niedermeyer, Animal House. And if you recall, there's a scene where Niedermeyer and his acolytes are out in front of the Omega House, and two of the Delta House guys are walking by after their house has been closed down, and Niedermeyer says, "How's it feel to be an independent, Schoenstein?" And Schoenstein says, "How's it feel to be a blank, Niedermeyer?" Well, prior to that little exchange, he's actually talking. He's like, "And of course, my father was in the cavalry. He was an officer, of course." And he was speaking very much in the mid-Atlantic accent. I can just tell you some of the other people. Betty Davis, well, this place is a dump. Grace Kelly developed a mid-Atlantic accent. Ginger Rogers, of course, the well-known partner of Fred Astaire, she had a mid-Atlantic accent, and she had to develop it. Those people had to develop it. There's an African-American actor named Roscoe Lee Brown. Any of you have seen the movie The Cowboys? You've seen him when they're going to try and kill him. And he says, "I ask you, Lord, for forgiveness for cheating at cards. I ask you for forgiveness of various other things. And I ask you for forgiveness for the men who I have killed. And I ask you for forgiveness for the men I am about to kill." And then the little cowboys attack and they kill all the bad guys. Anyway, Roscoe Lee Brown, very popular on television and in film during the 70s and 80s and the 60s, definitely spoke with the mid-Atlantic accent to the point where you may have thought he was British. Vincent Price often used the mid-Atlantic accent in his performances. Even though he's from Missouri, he had been schooled in elite Northeastern schools and British trained as an actor. Jack Cassidy, who Rumpled Trenchcoat and I have talked about extensively, of him being a charming rat in Columbo and other things, he affected the mid-Atlantic accent, even though he had a hardcore New York accent. He was a, let's get a cup of coffee kind of guy, but he affected that mid-Atlantic accent for his acting career. There you go. What do you think about that? Here's a big one. Cary Grant. You all know who Cary Grant was. Judy. He had an accent that was called mid-Atlantic, but there's a lot of speculation about the fact that his was that combination because he grew up sort of in the United States, but he didn't get here till he was 16. So he had that combination sort of organically, shall we say. There are examples I can give you from the media. I'll do that in just a second. People saying hi. There we go. Back to School still holds up. It definitely does. Doopa-doopa-doo, the accidental death of Niedermeyer's horse. Yes, when Flounder fires into the air and the horse has a heart attack. Oh, yeah. They have to chainsaw the legs off to get the horse back out of Wormer's office. Various accents of the mid-Atlantic style are heard in the 1940 film The Philadelphia Story. among the wealthy Philadelphia mainline family around which the movie centers. Now, here's one. Many of you hopefully have seen the movie Singing in the Rain. I don't know. Maybe raise your hand or something if you have. Singing in the Rain, if you haven't seen it, probably the best Hollywood musical of all time. Just populist across the board. Everybody can be entertained by it. Really good musical. Well, that musical bridges the gap between silent film and the talkies. And there is an elocution coach who is trying to teach this woman to speak, who'd been a big silent actress, but she had the worst voice. So when the talkies came, they had to try and teach her how to speak so that people would like it. I can't stand them. She just had that voice. It was awful. And he was encouraging her to speak in round tones, which was an element of mid-Atlantic accent. Rosalind Russell in Annie Mame. Now, in the Star Wars franchise, yes, Darth Vader, James Earl Jones, noticeably speaks with a mid-Atlantic accent. You know, I'm here to put you back on schedule. He definitely is speaking in a mid-Atlantic accent, as do Princess Leia and even Queen Amidala, Natalie Portman. They all use the mid-Atlantic accent when they speak to formal speaking register in political situations, when they're doing their queenly things and princessly things. They use the mid-Atlantic accent. Here's you go. Disney loved to use the mid-Atlantic accent for villains. Yes, the evil queen from Snow White, major mid-Atlantic accent. Maleficent, the bad lady in that one, definitely mid-Atlantic accent. Cruella de Vil in, I believe, 101 Dalmatian. Anyway, if you watch a Disney movie and there's a villain, a distinct villain, probably using the mid-Atlantic accent. How many of you have seen the Hunger Games series? Well, let me tell you something. Elizabeth Banks playing Effie Trinket in the Hunger Games, definitely using a mid-Atlantic accent. Mark Hamill, his portrayal of the Joker in the Batman cartoons, highly theatrical mid-Atlantic accent, definitely. And in the video games, you betcha. Yes. Those of you who may have seen American Horror Story, Hotel, there's a ghostly serial killer named James Patrick March in that big-time mid-Atlantic accent. And Catherine O'Hara uses if you like the show Schitt's Creek, she plays Moira Rose in that, and she uses a big-time mid-Atlantic accent. Now, I can go through some, there's some like syllogism. There's some things that don't seem to make sense. Why would you pronounce one word one way and one word another way? Like bath, dance, father. Those are all mid-Atlantic ways to do that. But they have things like the pan trap. It's like you would say pan. Hand me that pan. But you would never say trop. You'd say trap. So there's ways in which they, differentiate it. And they associate words obey, melody, obey. Not obey, but obey. You will obey me. They linger on vowels with the Mid-Atlantic accent quite heavily. By the way, like, share, subscribe, retweet, notification bell, do all those free things you can do to help us. Only cost a click. They get us in good with the algorithm, the almighty, all-powerful, all-seeing, all-knowing algorithm. Plus, we have super chats, we have memberships, we have the PayPal where you give the most, I get the most, Google gets nothing. Also, if you go to the TomGulleyShow.com, you can go to our merch store if you'd like. It's all right down there in the crawl, the begging bar at the bottom of the screen, or it's in the description of the show. And we really appreciate it. And of course, right now, we got nothing. Yet again, we got nothing. Not today, not tomorrow, not anytime soon. But one day, trust me, we'll go. Yeah, people don't like this show. They don't give us anything. And then we'll take another break and we'll see. Let's see. Right, bright, try, shine, ride. They just linger. Now, one of the things they do is on ARs, they drop the R. Car. I'm taking the car. Oh, it's frightfully dark. Go near the barn. You know, they drop the R. Fair, peer, tear. You know, where the hell did the R go? Where'd it go? Fair, pair, rare, you know? And there's all sorts of things called, like I mentioned earlier, the trap bath split. There's many different names for aspects of the Mid-Atlantic accent. It's been studied quite heavily. There is something called the father-bother merger, where they round the same way for two different letters. Father, bother. There's a lot of them. I'm not going to go through them all because I'm just sitting here saying things. By the way, there's a link at the top of the page if you want to be on the show. There's a link at the top. You don't have to turn your camera on, by the way. You can just turn on your mic. And yes. Let me see here. I've got I'm not going to go through all these. Wine. Let's see. Canterbury. Blueberry. It's just, it's kind of fun, but it's also kind of weird because you'd be watching these movies, be they, 20 years, 30 years older, and you'd see these people and you'd know, well, this is a movie about a town in the American West, and this guy owns the bank. Why is he talking that way? He should be talking like a Texas guy. No, it's not the way it worked. And also it was true on a lot of TV shows. The best example, or not the best example, but one example I can think of that always blew me away was Father Knows Best. Now, Father Knows Best was a show about just an average family. I think they were middle class, but they might be approaching upper middle class. And Bud and Kitten and Princess, Bud, he had a real American accent. And so did Richard Young, the head of the household. But his wife had this very, very mid-Atlantic accent. And I was always wondering, what's up with that? Why does she talk that way? Unless she's actually from England, and there's an episode where we meet her relative. She's not from England. Neither are they. They don't talk like she does. It always used to freak me out. It used to just totally freak me out. Why are they talking that way? There doesn't seem to be a reason for it. Why is this happening? And this is why it's happening. I thought it was a phenomenon for all these years, and then I learned about good American English, or the mid-Atlantic accent, and I went, oh, that's why they're doing that. And can you imagine being alive during the time, in the 30s and the 40s, when this was very prominent? And say you lived, anywhere outside the East Coast, and you're watching these movies, and you're going, I don't understand why they're talking that way. I've been to New York. I've been to Boston. Where are these people? Because a lot of the people say, what's the meaning of all this? And it's just a regular guy on the street. And you're like, why is he? But that is sort of the etymology of it. That's where it came from. That's why people used it. And to be honest with you, Stewie from Family Guy. Yeah. He's major mid-Atlantic accent. Oh, he's probably the best example that you could probably ever have. Stewie is very much mid-Atlantic accent, which does carry with it all of those aspects of a little upper crust, a little bit snobby, a little bit all the finer things, a little bit dedicated to the proper way of doing things. That's all part of it. So anyway, that is pretty much all I got to tell you about the mid-Atlantic accent. Really. That's all I have to say, really, about the mid-Atlantic accent. I mean, I could go into weak vowel mergers, the Mary, Mary, Mary distinction, the cure, false, north, cure, false, north, Palm, start, there's a lot of words that the same sound is used in the word, but the same letters in the word are not used. That's a major aspect of the mid-Atlantic accent. So there you go. There you are. Sally Kellerman. Yeah, look at that. She just passed away not too long ago. Let me see how long ago that was. A very sad day. Sally Kellerman was also in the pilot for Star Trek, by the way. She got an Academy Award nomination for Best Supporting Actress, as a matter of fact, in MASH. She died 3 years ago. Well, a little less than that. In L.A., February 24th. She's in a lot of Robert Altman movies. She was in The Last of the Red Hot Lovers and Back to School, in The Twilight Zone, Outer Limits, Star Trek, the pilot episode, Bonanza. She's in a really great episode of a Burt Reynolds. No, it wasn't. Was it Burt Reynolds? No, it was an episode of A Man Called Shenandoah that also contained Leonard Nimoy. Kellerman did voiceover work for Hidden Valley Ranch salad dressing, Mercedes-Benz, and Revlon. And then she did a lot of voice work. In 2013, she released her memoir, Read My Lips, Stories of a Hollywood Life. And she was just super famous for doing voiceovers, as well as being an actress. Tammy Grimes was the same way. But she was more of a stage actress. She won 2 Tony Awards. She is actually the husband. She was married to Christopher Plummer, and they had a daughter who was Amanda Plummer. Amanda Plummer is, Honey Bunny, and she's the British chick in the beginning of Pulp Fiction. If any of you blank blanks move, I'll execute every blanking one of you. Yes, that was her. That was her. Yes. So she was very famous for voiceovers as, whoops, better put Tammy Grimes up there. She was major voiceover lady. So, yeah. Let's see. I feel the same way about Stewie's character in Family Guy as I do the Mid-Atlantic accent. Both are odd. In a way, Stewie's accent is fitting. It really is. Did Spock have a Mid-Atlantic accent? No, he did not. No, he did not. No, he did not. No, he didn't. Good old Spock did not. He was born in Boston, was Leonard Nimoy. So he might have had the upper crust, I don't know, that upper crust accent. Leonard Nimoy, when he began his career, played, because of his exotic look, he played a lot of American Indians, Native American Indians, exotic foreign types. Yes. Very minor roles. He was a sergeant in the U.S. Army, in the Special Forces, mind you. Yes. 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 He was one of those guys. His parents were from the Ukraine. Oh, yeah. Yep. And he did all sorts of odd jobs to help the family out. Let's see here. Took drama classes at Boston College, moved to L.A. with $600 he had saved from selling vacuum cleaners to enroll at the Pasadena Playhouse, sporting himself by being a theater usher, taxi cab driver, and stocking vending machines. And then he quit. And then he became a method actor with the Stanislavski method. Joined the, Army, staff sergeant. And, he spent a decade before Star Trek playing only small parts in B movies and minor TV roles. He was in a lead called Kid Monk Baroni, and he thought it would make him a star, but the movie tanked. It was awful. And after he got out of the military, he played a lot of heavies, bad guys, switchblades and guns and attacking people. He overcame his Boston accent, but he was skinny, and he didn't think that was going to help him. He was in a lot of bit parts in Perry Mason, Dragnet, and serial movies like Zombies of the Stratosphere. Oh, yeah. Played an Army sergeant in Them, which is a great, great 1954 science fiction movie. He was in The Brain Eaters. You know what I'm saying? He was a guest on Sea Hunt. He was in The Twilight Zone, in Equality of Mercy. He was on Highway Patrol, Colt 45. He was on Wagon Train 4 different times. He was in a bunch of episodes of Gunsmoke. Bonanza, The Rebel, Two Faces West, Laramie, Westerns, all of them, Rawhide, The Untouchables, The 11th Hour, Perry Mason, Combat, Daniel Boone, The Outer Limits, The Virginian, Get Smart. He was on an episode of Get Smart. Anyway, it was on The Man from U.N.C.L.E., or as we call it in the song on my show, The Man from U.N.C.L.E. Let's see here. Stay cool, honey bunny. Dupita says, oh no, Wanda, you only found out now? Wanda's got her Spock thing up there. He was William Bell in Fringe. Yes, Wanda and I have spoken extensively about our great love of Fringe. Wanda's here. R.I.P. Leonard Nimoy. Did Spock? No, he didn't. Let's see here. Wanda, known for her punctuation. Let's see. Our favorite show, Tom. Yes, we likes us some Fringe. That's a good show. Those musical albums Nimoy put out were terrible. They really were. But everybody did that back in the day. If you were on a popular TV show and you were one of the main people in it, they were going to make you do a crappy music album. That's just all there was to it. All there was to it. Many people don't remember he was the main dude on Mission Impossible for a long time. Oh, yeah. Don't kid yourself. No, don't kid yourself, man. He was the narrator of, what was that show? This is the show with all the oddities and daggone it. Paranormal stuff. In Search of, that's what it was called. The Alpha Caper. Oh, he played a big role in Invasion of the Body Snatchers. Did a lot of voice acting. Lenny Nimoy. We should do a show on him, but we don't want to get started doing all the Star Trek people, or we'll be here all whatever. Hey, check it out. It's Team Brittany. Hey, everyone. Better late than never. Often imitated, never duplicated. Team Brittany. Anyway, we do have the super chats and the memberships and the PayPal. Just saying, you can gift memberships. You can, just saying. I know if I took my time and just ridiculed some poor guy for an hour, you'd all be kicking in big time. But I don't really want to do that. So I'm not gonna. What do you think about that? Anyway, let's see what else we got here. Who else's picture can I put up? It might be exciting. Respectfully submitted, Douglas C. Niedermeyer, Sergeant at Arms. And acts of perversion so foul that decorum prevents listing them here. At a Roman toga party was held. Let me see here. Let me see if I can find some of his quotes. Niedermeyer quotes. Whoa, quotes. And most recently of all, a Roman toga party was held, from which we have received more than 24 reports of individual acts of perversion so profound and disgusting that decorum prohibits listing them here. A pledge pin on your uniform. You're all worthless and weak. Now drop and give me 20. Redo your buttons. Dress your belt buckle. Straighten your cap. What kind of fraternity would take a man like you? Oh, God. When they made Animal House, they deliberately separated the guys from Delta House from the guys in the Omega House when they wouldn't let them do anything together. So they developed I've had a long day. People saying hi. Oh, Chef's got to leave. He says, good night, everybody. Good night, Gracie. Better late than never. Let's see here. Dupa says, if Spock met Leonard Nimoy, they would become friends. But if Captain Kirk met William Shatner, Kirk would kick Shatner's ass outside of an Applebee's. This made me laugh when I read it on Reddit. That's funny. That is funny, Dupa. People saying hi. People saying hi. People saying hi. Most cheerful chat room on the internet. It's verified by independent sources. I'm sorry that you have had a long day. It's over now. Man up, soldier. A pledge pin on your uniform. Hey, they can't do that to our pledges. Only we can do that to our pledges. People saying hi, people saying bye, people saying all sorts of groovy things. Anyway, that's what we got to tell you tonight about the Mid-Atlantic accent. Tomorrow, Julian Zezer requested that we cover Marfan's syndrome, and we're going to. Captain Kirk is climbing a mountain. Why is he climbing a mountain? Because it was there. Well, there's this seam in time, and Soran is trying to get it, and him and Picard. It's a long story. Toga party, toga. Toga, toga, toga. Right. All right then, Wanda, because he's in love. Well, Captain Kirk was in love once every episode. Does it give you a great feeling of achievement to be the captain of a starship? By the way, that was Mid-Atlantic English. The girl walks over to the window in the Enterprise. Does it give it a great feeling of achievement to be the captain of a starship? And then he walks up behind her, because he's predatory, and he says, there are some things more powerful than a starship. Then he turns her around and he kisses her. Because James Kirk was a score master. Anyway. Any old way. All right. Tomorrow, Marfan's syndrome. Thursday, big show. We're going to cover the Fort Worth trio. 3 people that disappeared without a trace from a mall in Fort Worth in 1974. And without a trace. And without any evidence except one really creepy thing and some other creepy things that I'm going to tell you about. Also on Thursday, I will be posting the link to Leon Kennedy's little treasure trove where you, if you'd like, can get all the Tom Gulley Show songs that he's created. What do you think about that? Wanda smiling? Team Brittany says, how does the starship make you feel? How did you feel about that? Did your mother have a starship? So true. So true. So true. I guess that's going to do it. I guess I should start putting a goal at the top of the thing. People used to, and now they don't anymore. And I don't know why. It's, maybe I just don't read anybody's comments unless I don't want to be that guy. I don't want to be that guy. Anyway. All right. With all that to say, I'm looking at that old clock on the wall. And it's telling me that like the Reverend Al Green, I got to get on up out of here. You don't have to go home, but you can't stay here. And wait a minute. Team Brittany says, the Tom Gulley Show, can we get a thin crust pizza? The thin crust Tom for a pizza show. I think I've already done an episode on pizza. In fact, I'm positive about that. And I might have been Thin Crust Tom or, Sicilian Tom. I don't know what I was for that. Closing time. Set 'em up, Joe. Here's a little story you ought to know. Drinking, my friend, to the end of a brief episode. So make it one for my baby, one more for the road. All right, I'm gonna play me 2 songs. I gotta play this "Gotta Dial G for Gully" song that he just did. It's freaking amazing. Keep singing to me, Tom. Yeah, well, you know, I'm like Pat Dixon. You want me to sing? You gotta, you know, kick in. Anyway, I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna hit the like. Yeah, hit the like at least, you people. If I'm gonna go broke doing this show, I might as well get a like out of it, right? Right. Hold on a second here. What's going on with this? See, that's wrong that it would start playing that. See, that's wrong that it started playing. I'll leave it like that. I don't care. Here comes some tunes. Got to dial G for Gully. And then I think I'm going to just go ahead and play the man from Gulley, because I played the other ones. So I guess the only thing left to say is, till next time, we'll see you next time.
When the night gets weird, and the headlines start to twist, he's digging through the stories, finding all the things you missed, talking Super Bowl ads, old films in modern trouble. If the world's too loud, he cuts it down to the subtle. So turn that down, 'cause you know who's talking. Ooh, if there's truth in the static, Tom Gulley, from where you're looking. Ooh, you gotta dial G for Gulley. 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 You gotta dial G for Gulley.
Oh! Whoa! Whoa! Yeah! Oh, yeah! Who's that man with the smoothest plan? Tom Gulley's got the upper hand. Oh yeah. He's got style, got brains, got a podcast too. Dropping truth bombs. He's coming for you. Evil puppets think they can play, but the man from Gulley don't sway. He's sharp as a tack, clever and sly. When he's in the zone, they can't deny. He's the man from Gulley. He'll outsmart the devil verse every day. The man from Gulley. Say what? Taking down those puppets in his funky way. He's got moves like a Motown king. Words so smooth, they gotta sting. Ha! With a mic in hand.